She stood on my porch, waving a clipboard like it was a sword. "This cabin is illegal," she said. "We're demolishing it tomorrow." I just stared at her. My morning coffee went cold in my hand. The sun was barely up and already the HOA queen was declaring war. "That's funny," I said slowly, "because this cabin's been here longer than your entire neighborhood." She smirked. "Not for long." By noon, warning signs were nailed all over my fence, bright red letters screaming, "Condemned by HOA authority." My mailbox was stuffed with fake notices, fines, and a letter saying I had 24 hours to vacate. I called the number listed, deadline typical. The next morning, I woke up to the rumble of engines. 3 trucks, men in vests, and the same woman, Karen, wearing oversized sunglasses like she owned the place. "You can't do this," I said, stepping onto the porch. "Oh, I can," she snapped. "We voted. This structure violates visual harmony and safety code. It's coming down today." The first swing of the hammer echoed through the trees, wood splintered. My cabin, the one my dad built, cracked open like it was nothing. I clenched my fists but said nothing, because while they laughed and took pictures for their little HOA group chat, I was recording everything. And I knew one thing they didn't. They just destroyed property that belonged not just to me, but to the county building inspector. I didn't stop them, not yet. Sometimes silence is the sharpest weapon. Karen strutted around the debris like she was celebrating a victory parade. "Make sure you clear all this out by tonight," she barked at the workers. They nodded, avoiding my eyes, even they looked uneasy. She turned to me with that smug grin again. "Maybe next time you'll follow the rules." I almost laughed. Rules, she didn't even know what those were. That evening, after the trucks left, I stood in the ruins of my father's cabin. The smell of broken pine filled the air. My neighbor, Tom, walked over quietly. "Man, I told them you owned this land fair and square," he said. "They wouldn't listen." "Don't worry," I replied, staring at the crushed foundation. "They will soon." I went to my truck, pulled out my official badge, and placed it gently on the hood. The silver letters gleamed under the fading sunlight. County Building Inspector, Authorized Enforcement Officer. Karen had no idea she'd just demolished county-approved property. No permit, no authorization, no legal backing. I spent the next few hours drafting an official violation report. Every detail, every illegal action, every witness name, it all went into the file. The next morning, I drove straight to the HOA office. Karen was there, sitting behind a desk that looked way too fancy for her fake title. She looked up, surprised. "You again? I thought you'd be moving your stuff by now." I set my badge on the desk between us. Her smile froze. "I'm not here to move," I said softly. "I'm here to inspect." Her eyes widened for a second, then she tried to laugh it off. "Nice toy badge," she sneered. "You really think pretending to be an inspector is going to save your broken shack?" I didn't blink. "Pretending?" I opened my folder and placed a stamped county seal document in front of her. "This is the authorization code you ignored, the same one filed 6 years ago for permanent residency status and lakeside reconstruction, signed by the county, by me." The color drained from her face. Behind her, a few HOA members peeked through the office door, whispering. I could hear them. "Is he serious? Wait, he works for the county." Karen's voice cracked. "This must be a mistake." "No mistake," I said, cutting her off. "You demolished a certified property without permit approval, without inspection notice, and without owner consent. That's 3 violations of County Code 41B. She tried to speak, but I leaned in just slightly. "And you authorized it under a false HOA ordinance, which doesn't exist." The room went quiet. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound. I gathered my papers and stood. "An investigation starts today. Until it's complete, this HOA is officially suspended from all authority regarding property enforcement." Karen's mouth hung open. "You can't do that." I smiled faintly. "Ma'am, I don't ask for permission, I issue it." As I turned to leave, I noticed a camera on the wall, red light blinking. Perfect. Everything she said, every arrogant word was on record. Outside, I called the county legal office. "Yeah, it's me," I said. "Open a file on Lakeside HOA, code violation, demolition without permit, possible fraud." The voice on the other end paused. Got it, want us to make it public. I looked back at the office window where Karen was packing like a trapped animal. Oh yes, I said, make it very public. By noon, the story was everywhere. Local news vans lined the lake road, reporters standing in front of the rubble like it was a crime scene, which, technically, it was. Karen tried to keep her composure, but it was falling apart faster than my cabin did. She called an emergency HOA meeting under a half-collapsed tent near the water. I watched from a distance as neighbors whispered and glared. She told us he was squatting, one woman said. He's the inspector, another gasped. Wait till the county finds out she used HOA funds for the demo crew, someone else muttered. I didn't even need to say a word, the truth was doing my job for me. That afternoon, a county sheriff's cruiser pulled up. My old friend Deputy Hale stepped out adjusting his hat with a smirk. Heard your little neighborhood queen been playing demolition derby again, he said. Yeah, I replied, handing him the report folder, and she just totaled her reputation. Hale flipped through the papers, whistled low. 3 violations, false authority, misuse of funds, she's cooked. Right then, Karen came storming toward us, waving a stack of papers. You can't arrest me, the HOA approved everything, I have rights. Sure do, Hale said, snapping handcuffs with a click. You also have charges. The neighbors gathered phones out, recording every second. Her voice turned shrill. You can't do this, I am the HOA. No ma'am, I said calmly, watching as Hale guided her to the car. You were. As the cruiser drove off, a few people clapped. Others just stared at the mess she'd made of my cabin, of the community, of herself. Tom came up beside me, shaking his head. Man, that was better than cable. I chuckled softly, but there was still something burning inside me. This wasn't over. She was just one piece of the problem. Someone had given her permission, someone higher up. And I intended to find out who. That night, I couldn't sleep. The wind off the lake rattled what was left of my cabin's frame, and the silence carried too many memories. My dad built this place with his bare hands, board by board. Seeing it reduced to splinters lit something deep inside me. I sat on the tailgate of my truck, scrolling through the county database. Karen might have been reckless, but she wasn't smart enough to pull this off alone. The demolition crew had been hired fast, too fast. I traced the permit number she forged, and my jaw tightened. The signature on it didn't belong to any HOA member. It belonged to Mark Hanlon, Regional Zoning Director, my supervisor. I stared at the name, the same guy who'd approved every shady HOA construction around this lake for years. Now it made sense. Karen wasn't leading, she was covering. The next morning, I walked into the county office like it was any other day. The air smelled of coffee and paper ink, but the whispers followed me down the hallway. Everyone had seen the news. Hanlon was in his glass office pretending to read reports. Well, look who made the front page, he said when I stepped in. You really embarrassed this department. Embarrassed, I asked quietly, or exposed? His smirk faltered. Watch your tone, Inspector. I set the forged demolition order on his desk. You signed this, Mark. No permit request, no inspection logs, just your signature and a $40,000 transfer from the HOA account 3 days before the demolition. He froze. For a moment I saw fear flicker behind his eyes, then came the denial. You have no proof of any transfer. I slid my phone across the desk, showing him screenshots from the county financial server. I do now. His face went pale. You don't know who you're dealing with, he hissed. I leaned forward. You're right, you don't know who you demolished. Outside his office window, I saw Hale step into the building with 2 more deputies. I'd called him an hour earlier. Hanlon realized too late what was happening. This is over, I said as the deputies walked in. Karen was just your puppet, but now it's your turn in the spotlight. He stood up, hands shaking. You're making a big mistake. No, I said, my voice calm and steady. I'm fixing one. Hanlon's voice turned sharp. You think one little badge makes you untouchable? You're done in this department, Inspector. I didn't even flinch. Hale stepped closer, reading Hanlon his rights as the office froze. Phones came out. Every clerk, every intern, all staring through the glass walls as the man who'd bullied half this county into silence got cuffed right at his desk. You can't arrest me in my office, Hanlon shouted, but Hale just said, "You built your own cell the day you took that bribe." As they let him out, I glanced around the room. No one said a word. They didn't have to. I'd seen their faces, some relieved, some scared, all realizing the rot went deeper than anyone wanted to admit. By the next morning, the county headlines read, "Zoning Director and HOA President Arrested for Fraud and Illegal Demolition." Emails flooded my inbox, some from locals thanking me, others from property owners asking for help reopening old cases. It was overwhelming, but something in me knew this was only the beginning. Later that week, I stood at the lake again. The water was calm, like it didn't remember the chaos. The remains of my cabin had been cleared, and the county offered full reimbursement plus restoration rights. Tom walked up with 2 coffees. "So what now, rebuild?" "Yeah," I said, taking a sip, "but not just for me." He looked confused. I smiled faintly. "I'm launching an inspection task force, independent, transparent, no more HOA corruption hiding behind fake bylaws, we're cleaning house." Tom laughed. "You're gonna make a lot of Karens nervous." "Good," I said, "they should be." As the sun dipped below the water, I set the first new beam into place, same spot my dad once stood, hammer in hand. The past was gone, but the foundation that was still mine. I looked at the lake, felt the breeze, and said quietly, "I didn't fight for this land just to watch bullies take it apart." And this time, everyone would know, justice didn't need permission to rebuild. A few months passed, and the lakefront slowly returned to life. New cabins rose, families came back, and the HOA, what was left of it, stayed quiet, too quiet. One afternoon, as I reviewed a new zoning application, a black SUV pulled up outside my cabin. No logos, tinted windows, my gut tightened instantly. Out stepped a man in a gray suit, polished shoes, cold smile, not the type that came for a fishing trip. "You must be Inspector Cole," he said smoothly. "I represent the Regional Development Board." "Funny," I said, crossing my arms. "You don't sound like someone from the board." He chuckled. "Let's skip the act. You made powerful enemies. Hanlon wasn't the only one profiting from these illegal demolitions. You're poking holes in a very expensive plan." I stayed silent. He took a step closer, voice dropping low. "Do yourself a favor, drop the investigations, and we'll make sure your property gets rebuilt, bigger, better, paid in full." I let the words hang in the air, then I smiled faintly. "Bribes, that's bold, especially when your car's been recording this whole conversation since you stepped out." He froze. "What?" I pointed to the camera I'd mounted on the porch, live feed streaming straight to county servers. "You might want to wave, say hi to the ethics committee." His expression darkened. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said quietly. "You're standing on county property without clearance, that's trespassing, step back." He hesitated, then turned toward his SUV, muttering something about me not understanding how high this went. As he drove off, I exhaled slowly. The corruption went deeper than I thought, far beyond Karen, beyond Hanlon. Later that evening, Hale called. "Got a hit on that license plate," he said. "It's registered to a real estate group connected to 3 demolished neighborhoods, same signatures, same fake permits." I stared out at the water, the reflection of my rebuilt cabin shimmering on the surface. "This isn't over," I murmured. "They think they can bury people's homes for profit, but this time the inspector's watching." A gust of wind rustled the trees. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Justice had started small, with 1 cabin. Now it was about to reach the whole county. 2 weeks later, the first storm of the season hit the lake. Heavy rain blurred the hills, lightning cracked over the water, but I was still at my desk, poring through county archives. Every demolished home, every altered permit, every fake signature. And buried deep in the files, I found what I'd been looking for: a list of redevelopment zones approved by Hanlon's department. The catch: half those zones were still occupied. Families, veterans, elderly folks. The plan was to erase them and turn the land into a luxury housing strip. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just corruption, it was a full-scale land grab. At dawn, I met Hale outside the sheriff's station. "You're not gonna like what I found," I said, handing him the file. He skimmed it, then looked up. "They plan to push people off their land using fake safety violations." Exactly, I said. HOAs were the muscle, the county offices provided the paperwork. He cursed under his breath. You realize if this is real, we're stepping on state-level toes. I don't care, I said, rain dripping from my coat. People built their lives here, we're not letting suits and fake committees bulldoze them out. That evening, we called an emergency town meeting. The community center overflowed, neighbors, veterans, small business owners, everyone who'd ever been fined, threatened, or lied to by the HOAs. I stood at the front, the projector lighting up the wall with scanned documents and transaction records. They've been using us, I said, turning private land into corporate property, one fake violation at a time. Gasps rippled through the crowd. One woman broke into tears. They tore down my father's barn last spring, she said it was a fire hazard. It was on their map, wasn't it? I nodded, it was. The room went silent, then someone shouted, "What do we do?" I took a deep breath. We fight back legally together. I filed a full report to the state attorney and the federal inspector general. They can't silence all of us. A cheer erupted, small at first, then growing into thunder. For the first time, fear turned into fire. Outside, lightning flashed again, illuminating the lake. Hale leaned close and whispered, "You sure you're ready for what's coming next?" I watched the crowd, their faces lit with determination. "Ready," I said quietly. "I've been waiting my whole life for this."